Thanks everyone for joining us for the Champions in Higher Education for XR. I'm one of the co-chairs of CHEX, which is part of the Immersive Learning Research Network. I'm Rob Theriault. I live in Ontario, Canada, and my co-chair is Dr. Stephanie Justice. You want to say hello?
Hi, everybody. I'm Stephanie. I work at The Ohio State University at the College of Nursing in our XR lab.
Yeah. Thanks. And with us today is Amany Alkhayat, and she is from Teachers College, Columbia University. Is that currently where you're working, Amany?
Yeah, so currently I work I'm a doctoral student at Columbia Teachers College.
Okay.
And I'm also a graduate research assistant at the Belonging Project. So I'm doing also virtual reality. And I also teach virtual reality at the New York Institute of Technology.
That's what I was thinking of. Okay, so Amany has over 20 years of experience in education and instructional technology. She is passionate about empowering learners and educators with immersive and interactive solutions. She's currently a VR researcher. So I'm probably going to repeat some of what you just said. Currently a VR research assistant in the Belonging Project at Teachers College and Columbia University, where she designs and develops immersive spaces and experiences for middle school and high school students across the nation. She's also an adjunct faculty at the New York Institute of Technology, where she teaches courses on virtual, augmented, and mixed reality. She's a CEO of Language Cities, a VR game for language learning where she utilizes her expertise in AI and avatar creation for language learning engagement. She's currently pursuing her doctoral degree in instructional technology and media at Teachers College, Columbia University. She has a passion for the virtual reality community and has worked together with leading figures in education and VR and the Immersive Learning Research Network to promote the use of virtual reality as a tool for learning and educational enhancements in various settings. So a little bit about her talk before she gets started. So, and this topic really fascinates me, this concept of intelligent tutors and chatbots in virtual reality, as she describes, are transforming learning, language learning by enhancing communicative and meta-affective skills. These technologies serve as virtual tutors in various educational contexts, including programming and second language learning. They support self-assessment and help reduce discrepancies in learner modules, increasing the effectiveness of the learning process. These chatbots, equipped with the ability to understand natural language and learn from interactions, are increasingly being integrated into e-learning platforms. They are personalized to exhibit emotional and cognitive understanding, enabling persistent and relational interactions in collaborative, social, or learning systems. The impact of intelligent tutors and chatbots in VR on language learning is significant. They offer interactive, engaging, and personalized experiences, making them a viable tool for a contemporary education. However, their effectiveness varies with the learner's language proficiency, and challenges remain in their broader applications and user engagement. The use of these technologies represents a significant step forward with the evolution of educational tools offering a more dynamic and tailored learning experience. I'm particularly interested in intelligent tutors and hearing what you have to say, Amany, because it strikes me that colleges and universities are having a lot of conversations around cheating and policing with large language models, but not having the more important conversations around how will students learn differently and how will we assess learning differently with generative AI. And, we're seeing early glimpses now with the Meta smart glasses that, have an intelligent tutor essentially that talk to you and be able to use the forward-facing cameras to identify things in front of you. But what's really needed, sort of next step in my mind, is one, good instructional design and augmented reality to be able not just to tell you about things, but to show you things either in 3D form or in 2D form. and then instructional design to be able to, so the student's not just interrogating their intelligent tutor, but the intelligent tutor is interrogating the student. And when I say interrogating, I mean sort of questioning. So and coupled with analytics, so it can be leveraged to determine whether the student's learning, acquiring knowledge comprehension, ability to apply that knowledge, and higher order thinking skills. So Amany, thank you so much for joining us, and really looking forward to hearing what you're going to tell us.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I'm working on a research paper now that would maybe could provide an answer to what you've said now in terms of like pedagogical innovations and other stuff relates to artificial intelligence.
Fantastic.
Okay, so yeah, sorry, I did it on Canvas. Okay, so basically today's it's like two topics, not one. It's virtual reality and intelligent tutors. And so I thought of like talking at the very beginning about computer-assisted language learning, because that's actually what everything originated from text to spatial computing in terms of second language learning. And I've been teaching actually computer-assisted language learning between 2010 and 2014 in a Saudi university. And this was an elective course. I started with 4 students, and I ended up, before I resigned, with like 25 students in my class. And this class was kind of popular in the program, because I always think that teachers should be the authors or the designers of their own materials, because sometimes we can't find things that can be tailored to the curriculum. And so we have to give teachers the opportunity to design for their own teaching if they can't find the resources. And in 2010 or 2011, actually there were like a scarcity of resources for educators, unlike today. Like we used to use stuff before, learning management systems like hot potatoes. I'm not sure if you know hot potatoes, but I think it's a Canadian. I think it's Victoria University or something. So it's an application, a test authoring application that you can use, and also it works as an intelligent tutor. So my colleague, Professor Phil Hubbard, who was a professor at Stanford University, and his colleague who had seminal work in this area of computer language learning, they provided a framework, or like the vision. What does the computer do when it comes to learning or language, especially language learning? So it's mediation. So, and sometimes we call it computer mediated communication or computer mediated instruction. So the role of the computer is to mediate, and also from a human computer interaction, we always talk about the invisible interfaces. And so when we design for learning, I have to make sure that the learner only focuses on the task, and as if the computer is invisible, the learner doesn't have to learn the technicalities or how to press a button and all of these stuff. And this sometimes can be an issue when it comes to intelligent tutors and also virtual reality. And so we need to introduce these technologies at the very beginning to the students. And so I would start first by talking about virtual reality, and then delving more into intelligent tutors. And so one of the things that I always see, whether in virtual reality or 3D interfaces and conversational AI, is that if we don't teach our students the way they interact with things, like everyday things, I don't think that we're teaching the right way. So whenever my kids, they have an argument on like while having dinner, and they want to win the argument, what they do is that they ask Alexa, or sometimes they ask Siri. Okay, so they have been involved with artificial intelligence or virtual assistants many years ago, before we know about generative AI. So the children and kids, they know, they have, I feel like I always say, like the AI natives. So they have been involved with artificial intelligence way before people actually talk about chatbots like generative AI now. And it's one of the things that was really disappointing to me when I started the technology enhanced language learning special interest group, because my area of interest in terms of research and also design was chatbots, is that nobody wanted to talk about chatbots and the power of artificial intelligence and how they reduce anxiety when it comes to teaching, according to research. And the problem was, of course, because of many things that research has mentioned, like aligning to the curriculum and teachers understanding the value of using chatbots or intelligent tutors in the classroom. And so there are some benefits of using virtual reality in the classroom. So I'm going to start first by talking about virtual reality. So in language learning, we talk about the affective filter, okay? And language learning in virtual reality can inhibit the affective filter because of embodiment, because of interacting in a virtual environment. And of course, it has long-term memory. If you look at some of the game-based language learning research, for example, or other research that relates to long-term memory retention, especially in terms of vocabulary, you will see that when students touch things and using gesture, this affects their learning. And it also has an impact on learner engagement, and it promotes active participation. I have done an experiment with my students where they were actually very engaged, and also they actually produced content without plagiarizing, which made it like really interesting. And so some of the like the most important thing when it comes to teaching language learning is understanding pedagogy before technology. For me, I would start with understanding pedagogy and how to teach, and what are like, especially when we teach speaking, we always talk about communicative competence, which communicative for communication, and the competence has to do with grammar, vocabulary, and so we call it socio-pragmatic competence or pragma-linguistic competence, which means like, how do I ask for something politely, for example, greetings, agreeing and disagreeing, and all of these things. How do I take turns? These are things that students would need to learn about and understand and also communicate. And so storytelling can be one of the examples. And we've done this, and actually we used MPCs from Engage. Task-based language teaching. We also used the scenario-based language learning. So it was a crime scene in virtual reality, and that was in Engage. Also, this is something that's always dear to my heart. So interactions in VR is always a thing that it's desirable to do this, because I mean, without interactions, what are we doing in VR? So Altspace VR provided these grabbing interactions, for example. And so and also like providing like definitions and stuff like that. And so role play activities, which I'm going to talk about also in terms of tutoring systems and chatbots, is something that also we could enhance in whether in the traditional classroom, because it's still there, or whether in the digital classroom. So all of these examples that I have mentioned in terms of VR with human interaction could also be augmented and facilitated to students in terms of language learning and intelligent tutors. Also co-building. Imagine that you're asking ChatGPT about an idea that relates to idioms, for example. And so I usually ask my students, well, if you don't know, you can actually ask ChatGPT about an idea. So this one was before ChatGPT, but as you can see, I think you can tell the idiom, it's raining cats and dogs. And so we asked participants to create something with IFXs, with immersive effects, so that, and they can challenge each other and they can guess the idiom. And one of the teams, they came up with a very easy idiom that everybody could guess, but the other ones, they came up with something that, especially for spatial computing, we had to go around the immersive effects in order to figure out what does that mean, and we couldn't. And so the team, they told us that it's pulling someone's leg, which we couldn't figure out. And so virtual reality has the capability of like, okay, I'm a teacher who loves to improvise in class, because we can't just plan for what we're going to do in class, because sometimes students may come with questions that would make us change our plan automatically. And this happens, I think, most of the time. And so we have to innovate in class. We have to like think of other activities. And I have been teaching basic, like students with basic knowledge about English, that, and the classroom was traditional, that I had to use whatever I can so that I can have them communicate together through gaming, for example. So I would just do something that would make the students like communicate with each other so that I can meet the learning outcomes. Gamification. So gamification also can be used in virtual reality, and also it's been one of the things that have been used in virtual assistants in general, and also chatbots in particular in many research, in which the chatbot asks questions and gives points and so on. This is on Frame VR, and I'm going to show you something that I think after the new update on Frame VR, which actually can work, but with some limitations. And so I used the virtual reality with my students to discuss a novel by Henrik Ibsen. It's called A Doll's House. The students who went into VR, they were actually, especially the male students, they were very affected by the story. Although, I mean, comparing the 21st century, I don't think that, I mean, what Nora did was comparable, but they were really, really impacted by the story, that they started talking about their own countries and gender differences, and they didn't plagiarize. While the other students who didn't go into a VR platform, they just watched a video, they read the novel, all of them, they plagiarized. Okay. So this is something that we do every year with Electronic Village, and this year we're going to do instructional design for instructional immersive design, and also we're going to do artificial intelligence. And so how we can use artificial intelligence and virtual reality together to augment learning. And I'm going to talk now about virtual tutors. Okay, so I just want to tell you that this image was actually generated by ChatGPT-4, and but it was not generated automatically. It seems that ChatGPT-4 has long-term memory, that it remembers that I use Python for coding. So I asked GPT to generate an image, a word cloud. And so what ChatGPT-4 did is that it generated coding for Python. And so I put it on Google Colab, and then it generated this. So, but I had to play with some of the code, because I didn't like the way it looked like. And so this image was generated from GPT-4 through Python code. So you can see the value of ChatGPT that helped me a lot. ChatGPT is a really good teacher in terms of language and in terms of programming languages, especially Python. And I mean, you can learn a lot with ChatGPT, and especially that I always feel like ChatGPT is a very gentle teacher. So it's all the time there, 24/7. It can accept any questions. And also, sometimes I'm really frustrated. You didn't understand what I said, and it apologizes. And so It's really interesting. And this is the image that also it created after I asked it this question. I liked it, so I put it here. Okay, so at the very beginning, I talked about CALL, okay, computer assisted language learning. So with the advent of the artificial intelligence and the Turing test, if you know the Turing test, so Alan Turing, he had this argument that, and also he made this Turing test, which means that humans interact with one human and one computer, and whoever is convinced that the computer is a human wins the Turing test. And there has been a lot of chatbots. I don't remember since when, but the first one was called Eliza. And Eliza was a Rogerian therapist, was made like a Rogerian therapist. And it was programmed in a way like pattern matching. Okay, so if you say, I am sad today, Eliza would take the keywords sad today and why are you sad, okay, and so on. And so Eliza was one of the first chatbots. There have been many chatbots until 2019. Sorry. That one, it was a prize. It's called Lubner Prize. And actually, not all of them were made by artificial intelligence. Actually, there was one that was made by, it's not a, I mean, it's a markup language. It's called artificial intelligence markup language. And it's actually one of the famous chatbots, if you know Pandora bot, and it has a very good use case in terms of language learning. And also they have a very famous chatbot. It's called Cookie. It used to be called Mitsuki. And it was a winner of the Lubner Prize for like 6 times. There also have been lots of winners, but the recent Turing test, which was really funny, is that it was the chatbot that won was actually one that made spelling mistakes and was impolite. Because they were playing a game. So they anticipated if you are playing a game, you're gonna get angry. And so if you make spelling mistakes because you want to win and you don't have time to check the spelling, and you also kind of like there's impoliteness, so that you are human. So I don't have any comments on this. Because in language learning, we talk about affective filter and we talk about empathy and we talk about like being kind to students. And so intelligent call came to, because I mean, it's the advancements in natural language processing and also ASR, automated speech recognition, gave importance to many applications that actually made it possible to teach students language learning. And some of the current applications like Duolingo, for example. And so an intelligent tutor, how it's designed, it has the expert module, the learner module, and if you compare it to a human, it's this way. So for example, I teach language learning, so I'm an expert because I have this module in my head. Like I know the present simple, the present perfect, and how this is used, and so on. And the student, which has a very limited module, and then the tutor, which is actually a system that facilitates the interaction between the expert module and the learner module, and then the user interface. And so it doesn't have to be like someone with a face, like a chatbot with a face. It can be anything that could facilitate language learning and whatever. There have been other tutors in mathematics, for example, algebra one. Could be a picture, and then it would facilitate like algebra or calculus and so on. It doesn't have to speak. User modeling and adaptivity, which has to do with adaptive learning. So there are intelligent systems that includes a user model that records the steps and mistakes and then gives feedback. And the students can look at the feedback and also the teachers, and then they can gain knowledge about what kind of learning outcomes that need to be emphasized so that the students can meet these learning outcomes. And the adaptivity means that, for example, if the student doesn't understand past simple, so this means that I have to start from scratch, for example, or I need to start a step, go a step back. And so that's why the system is adaptive. And of course, it uses artificial intelligence. NLP, NLG, and AIML. So I love talking about this because actually, when I'm doing my dissertation in chatbots, when I was doing my pilot study, I realized, so I did the first pilot study before generative AI. I mean, it was during GPT-2, which is not considered a strong one. And so we usually talk about artificial intelligence before generative AI and artificial intelligence after generative AI. So there used to be lots of problems because there are many ways of designing chatbots. It's not only generative AI. So you can design a chatbot for language learning if you want to meet specific criteria for meeting the learning outcomes. So something like Alexa Skills can do, IBM Watson can do dialogue flow. So you just need a very specific, like scenario-based, a very limited interaction. You want the students to focus on the that model, Microsoft Azure. So Microsoft Azure or Azure, it's also been used in mixed reality, Magic Leap, to create a chatbot. And this chatbot can also be a language learning chatbot. Okay, and so there are many modules, we call it applied artificial intelligence, where the teacher themselves can go to IBM Watson, create, they need just to understand what the meaning of intents and entities, utterances, grammars, and all of these stuff. It's very easy. And then they can create a chatbot that can generate understanding and generate utterances to communicate with students. So it's a no-code solution. Machine learning plays in the back end, and that's it. So natural language processing gave rise to many applications that can be used in language learning. So even if you go to what's it called, Word, the Word document, if you just type and make spelling mistakes and make grammatical mistakes, it's going to highlight it. And this is based on natural language processing, natural language generation, which is like chatbots, artificial intelligence chatbots. So it will generate. So some of the problems that had to do with chatbots before generative AI was memory and context awareness. And so you can interact with a chatbot, like, for example, artificial intelligence markup language sometimes also have these mistakes. And then you want the chatbot, you want to ask the chatbot about something that you mentioned like 2 conversations before, but the chatbot will not remember it. Whereas in generative AI, it solved this problem. However, there are still some problems in terms of education that need to be resolved in terms of creating tutors that are actually aligned to the curriculum. There are some solutions, but so for example, fine-tuning a data set could be a problem, could be a solution in which you create a data set and then you either upload it to OpenAI or you can generate it like outside OpenAI. And so some solutions have been actually published in research so that it can make the conversation authentic. Automated speech recognition is also have to do with intelligent tutoring systems, because when you speak to the chatbot, it takes this, it changes it into sound, it changes it into text, so speech to text, and then when it generates it from text to speech. And so some of the applications, they actually do like Mondly, for example, Mondly. So Mondly, as you can see here, it's an VR application. You can download it on your mobile app, and it has like a mobile app. It has the augmented reality application, and this is their VR app. What they do is that they also, if you didn't pronounce things correctly, it will tell you to repeat. It will ask you to repeat. But I remember this this episode in Friends, and I did the same thing, where I was trying to speak French, and then I kind of imitated how they say it, but I didn't say it properly. And it was like, check, yeah, you are correct. So sometimes people can fool AI, and I mean, like I did, I just imitated the way this in French can be said, but I didn't even say it. And I got a check, and then I moved ahead and continued practicing. Machine translation has been also one of the things that empowered artificial language learning, because um, in very low levels of proficiency, learners sometimes need a translation. So there have been some applications that provide exact translations according to the learning outcomes, because in English, sometimes a word may have more than one meaning. So we need to make sure that the learner gets the right meaning within context. And so there have been some application that would provide. One of them is Duolingo. I mean, sometimes you can have these translation texts, translation exercises, and Duolingo can give you a translation, and then you need to do the translation or to finish the activity. And I also talked about applied AI chatbots like Dialogflow and IBM Watson. So in research in second language learning, unfortunately, you may find the word intelligent tutors associated with chatbots. You may find the word partners, peers associated with chatbots. You also may find the word conversational AI, so also associated with the chatbots. So there is no consensus, as always, in the AI world about naming conventions for a specific thing, and of course, it's especially to language learning, because in some like STEM education, for example, there is a distinct differentiation between intelligent tutors and chatbots. But when it comes to language learning, we as language educators, we talk a lot, and we also ask the students to talk and express themselves. And so a chatbot as an intelligent tutor in language learning makes sense. If we say conversational AI, also that makes sense as well. And so why intelligent call? Why we need to use intelligent tutors? One of the most important things in research in terms of language learning is anxiety. Okay, it's called FLA, which relates to foreign language anxiety. And I actually, one of the things that made me publish this paper in 2017 is that I had students who had anxiety in class, and I don't criticize students. My class, I always teach them, let's make fun of our mistakes. I make mistakes as well, and I was a language learner like you, so why not just, if you make mistakes, let's learn from it and not make it a big deal. But some of the students, sometimes they may have like PTSD, traumas. You never know. And so that's why I used the tutor mic in my class. It wasn't virtual reality yet. It was 2014. And I really had good results, and students were really motivated to chat with the chatbot, although the chatbot didn't sometimes make sense. It's created using AI ML, but at least it made them feel like, yeah, I want to learn and I want to practice the language. Chatbots can be used 24/7. They're always there. Many of them are free. And personalized learning, we always talk about personalized learning, and especially that sometimes students who are neurodivergent, for example, they need personalized learning. Sometimes ChatGPT, what it does is that it adjusts the way it gives you the information, and sometimes it cuts it into specific tasks. And this is proven by research in terms of STEM education and also language learning. And so personalized tutoring, especially attending to students who have, I don't want to say disabilities, because neurodivergent students, they're actually very innovative, but it would, like, some students need special attention, some students need another way of approaching problems. And so it would make them engaged and motivated. It's also an interactive learning experience. When I did that study, my students were very interested. I'm going to show you that in a moment. So some of the challenges when it comes to artificial intelligence and intelligent tutoring is cost. Because, I mean, if we're going to use it for language learning, it's not going to be that costly. It might be costly when it comes to virtual reality or like if we're going to use ChatGPT, for example, the free one, that's fine, but it might have also some problems in terms of aligning with the curriculum because you imagine that you have someone who's very, very knowledgeable, so it brings information from all kinds of text to someone who needs to be very like the expert model or the expert module. And so aligning with the curriculum, UX design. So there was a German colleague or acquaintance who designed a chatbot. I think it used to be called Quantum Bar, and she was very creative and intelligent to the way that she designed it. When you step in Neos VR, you have to step in a certain place so that the chatbot can detect that you are there. And then you have to look at their face because it has something like a blue color around it. So this means that it's listening to you. So I was really um, like it was really interesting to see how this chatbot can work and how she used UX design in order to make the user understand when the chatbot is going to talk and when it's going to listen. Authenticity, this is one of the issues, but with dataset fine tuning, it wouldn't be kind of a problem. And non-native speakers accent is one of the challenges because I had students who they came from like their accents was very heavy, their level B, and the chatbot did not understand them. One of the challenges also is, as you can see here, is this chatbot in Frame VR. I'm not sure. I didn't pay for the premium one, but if it's gonna be in VR, how am I going to communicate, especially if it's text-based? But one of the really amazing things that I'm going to try is actually pay for it and then try to customize its personality. And this is one of the things that I learned from voice user interface design, because one of the things that are very important and were not there until 2020 research is the chatbot persona. And so the chatbot persona, it's the same as when you talk about your teacher and say, well, that teacher is very kind, or that teacher is very informative, inquisitive, and so on. And so designing the chatbot persona, many people know it because of OpenAI, but it's actually been a practice with Alexa skills, IBM Watson, and all of that. You design the persona, and according to whatever you designed, this will dictate the language or the way the chatbot will interact with you. So if the chatbot is kind, there has to be some keywords that would show that this person is kind and so on. And I know, as you can see that also in Frame VR, you can also do generative AI on the spot. So I was really amazed by how they put these new things in there. And we're actually doing a research paper on that relates to something that relates to that. Oh, I think okay. Yeah, so one of the challenges in artificial intelligence is that when we teach as teachers, we have to pay attention to three things. Cognition, which means that how the students learn and how I can teach them and how I can make them understand things. Culture and social aspects. And so without the human element, without the cultural and the social, I mean, yeah, this would be a problem. And so all research papers, or almost all research papers, they advise that the teacher has to be there, scaffolding. Intelligent tutors can be part of it, but not the whole thing, because we need each other. And we also, I mean, even if some teachers are like they don't like what the students say, or like we need also to learn empathy. So one of the things that chatbots have been used for is anxiety. But what if teachers provided a classroom that is stress-free, free of anxiety, safe for students to make mistakes, safe for students to fail? I mean, we learn to fail at first and then learn from our failure and then succeed. This is what should be in education. It's not just, hey, you didn't do this assignment, you're gonna fail. No, it's not, because there are many famous people who succeeded because they actually had bad teachers. And so the idea of having artificial intelligence is to supplement. And it's not that we were going to design it and make it empathetic and make it kind. No, I mean, we have to be very kind with our students and we have to lead by example. And so, this is one of the things that I am working on now, and we're actually working really hard to make it very, very pedagogical, like pedagogical agents. So we're doing, immersive storytelling with AI agents, and it's called language cities. So it's like immersive story, and the learner has to do something. So we look forward for this. This was part of my study. It was a recent study with GPT-3, and as you can see, uh, I don't know if you know in-world AI, but I love in-world AI. You can actually customize it with prompt engineering. It can be advanced. As Rob said, that the AI should ask questions. And so with Proximus, this was supposed to be a peer. Uh, I kind of created the prompt so that Proximus can ask questions, because this is also what I found from a previous study, that the students want a tutor that would give them advice and that would be inquisitive, like ask many questions. And actually, this is one of the chats with my students. And the lesson was about food passions. It's Pearson Top Notch. I'm a big fan of Top Notch, and I wish I put also the other conversation with student conversation. Very boring, to be honest, as always. The students actually reading from the book, and that's why their English seems to be good, but it's not. And that was through Zoom. And so with this one, the student couldn't actually look at the book in order to find, because it was like, I mean, she didn't expect the chatbot to say something, okay? To say like what the chatbot is gonna say, okay? So, are you crazy about seafood? This was part of the lesson. And then because she said Mr. Proximus, he corrected her and said, no, I'm Dr. Proximus. And so she repeated the same question, and then he gave her answers. So that was in-world AI that was recorded for a study. And really, the students were very enthusiastic. They actually asked about in-world AI. Can we use it for free? And I was like, no, it only gives you 120 minutes for free. Go ahead and create your own chatbot. But after that, maybe you can create another one. So um, I really, even the students in their focus group were very enthusiastic about the chatbot. And they talked about anxiety. They talked about motivation. Um, and they also asked if there is something that would make them practice the language and also give them like correct their mistakes. So one of the problems with in-world, of course, because it's made for gaming, is that it didn't correct mistakes. So that's why we're working on something that would correct students' mistakes and like give them feedback. But all in all, the chatbot was really, really engaging for the students, and they were very curious. They wanted, like the control group, the students spent less than 1 minute interacting with each other on the same lesson. Okay, it was a role play activity, whereas the students who interacted with the chatbot, they spent like more than 5 minutes, and then yeah, it was really interesting to see how they produce language. Even when you see their questions, it's longer than the control group. Yeah, so thank you so much. I would love to hear your questions.
Wow.
And
Thank you
yeah,
so much. That was so great. So many amazing things to talk about. Questions. I have so many, but that was really good, really good. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. By the way, I'm Jonathan Richter, the uh, CEO of iLearn, and Rob had to leave halfway. Oh wait, he's here. Rob, do you want
Leaving
to?
shortly.
Oh yeah, okay. Um, Hi. So we've wow, wasn't that fantastic? There's so many things. The designs for human learning. I love the so many ways of creating AI that can assist us to create, empathy, understand, interact in a stress-free environment. You had some great goals there about talking about, sort of the best pathways to learning. Um, if we can empathize with each learner and create a stress-free environment where they can be creative and capitalizing on their strength and their skills and engaging in their literacy. I just we're announcing a partnership with the Barbara Bush Foundation for a special track for our conference in Scotland, actually, or online as well for 2024. And it's on digital literacy and equity. And I just kept thinking about that because it's happening all right now also. And we're making that announcement, I guess, now. But um, wow, there's so many implications to digital literacy and equity issues surrounding these intelligent tutors and the AI. Um, what would your what would your response on that be, Amany? Or just what's off the top of your head?
can you repeat the question? Like,
Just all the things that you're talking about have so many implications for digital literacy, and there's equity issues involved. And I love the vision of using AI to attain these incredible learning ends. But isn't there's all these just the equity, the landscape of making things accessible and making things equitable.
mm,
While it's breaking down all these barriers, it's also producing certain weird landscapes where some people
yes,
are getting access and
yeah.
some aren't. Just what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think AI could create equity, but at the same time, loss of jobs at the
Right.
same time.
Yes.
So for example, and it's not equity that can be scalable. So for example, when it comes to certain languages, you can't converse with AI and get an accurate because the English language is the most well represented language on the internet, like through research papers, through social media, through many things. And so for other languages, it could be difficult unless there is someone. So for example, I was invited to the United Nations last September for it was a session on uh, on the fourth sustainable the education quality education, and there was Coursera, and they talked about 4,000 courses that will be provided to 9 countries in the Middle East, and these were translated by artificial intelligence. And of course, I think most people know that the CEO of Coursera is Professor Andrew Ng, who is one
Mhm.
of the most influential people of artificial intelligence. Like, I'm a big fan of him. So they were talking about translation, and they said that a human translator, if translating one course, that would they would pay I think $1,000 or $2,000 per course. But with artificial intelligence, they translated to all languages, and it cost them $10.
Yeah.
And you can see that, yes, there could be equity in terms of like people accessing. And also what they did is not only that, not only translation, but also intelligent tutor speaking in all languages. And so they said that the intelligent tutor will be there 24/7, answering questions related only to each and specific course. And so of course, artificial intelligence would enable many people to access education and other things, but at the same time, there will be a cost in terms of like human translation, which could be appreciated. Like I think there's a difference between like when a human translates versus versus like AI.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the things that AI does well is going to saturate our most of civilization, right? And it's going to make us shift, take take different approaches to even just how we make money and how we do the thing that makes us human. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great answer. Um, yeah, there's so many great possibilities. Eric Milos had a question. He said he's seen a lot of tutorials on creating prompts for ChatGPT. How can your call framework with AI ensure that it's not waiting for the right question to provide complete feedback?
Oh, so the call framework is not mine. It's like
Yeah,
it's an approach in language
right.
learning. And where is that question?
In the chat to everyone. One thing I have seen a lot of tutorials on is creating prompts for ChatGPT. So how can call with AI ensure that it's not waiting for the right question to provide the complete feedback?
Oh, I I don't know about I don't have like a complete answer. Probably if he can like explain the question that AI is waiting for the
It's like how does it adjust to different kinds of learners, maybe like building a
mm,
profile on different things? So it's like it's you're it's a chicken egg thing. Like if you're non-native speakers and the AI is not picking up the accent, or it's not, or the non-native speaker isn't understanding the framing of the concepts in the language, what are the ways that the AI can interact with it, or how can strategies for um,
mm,
locking in on a particular user or a particular learner's issues.
yeah, yes. Yeah, so actually it was a kind of a discussion today with a German university that invited me to teach AI, and I find it really this question like popping up again.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, through my study, the students ask questions that AI didn't understand. And I believe that we need more representative data for non-native speakers. And actually, this has been much talk about collective something, voice collective.
Mm,
So it's an open source organization that for voice user interface designers,
mhm,
but they were kind of trying to collect like voice data from different people speaking different languages, and so we need more of that. Not only that, there have been in Women in Voice some programmers and designers who would design for speech therapy, because who would design systems for people who have speech problems and they need speech therapy. And so this has to be more focused. So probably in terms of generative AI, a more general model might not be able to solve it, but it could be solved in two ways. Either somebody working on these systems to collect more representative data.
mhm.
That's one thing. The other thing is that teachers should also teach students how to use various prompts in the classroom, and probably they should give feedback. So this
Right.
is something that teachers can do. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
And
Um,
it's also part of language learning.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, I keep thinking about my friend Michael Running Wolf and Carolyn Running Wolf, their work on AI um, to understand indigenous, ways of thinking. Like
Mm.
the critique that so much of the algorithms are written with Western thinking in mind, and that the
Ah,
whole way
okay.
that they're coding things has a bias against it. So wondering if the cultural ways that, language represents particular ways of looking at the world, thinking about the world, and if there's ways we can create more responsive algorithms that more easily display the entire richness of those cultures, because they're not like going through the lens of a Western algorithm. They're like natively algorithmic and, you know what I mean?
Yes,
Responsive
definitely.
in that way.
Mm.
So I think that's an interesting idea and one that I would love to see flourish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a question from Ken Bigger.
Oh, in the Q&A.
Oftentimes, low levels of foundational literacies stand in the way of acquiring digital literacy skills. What strategy do you see as effective or promising for lowering these kinds of barriers to access to these tools? So,
Just
one
being
of the
able to
things,
get your hands on things, I guess. I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, but one of the things also could be a translation. Like I've seen people from different countries now using ChatGPT, and it's helping them in marketing and other stuff. And so, well, one of the things that I have seen in my classes that would lower, what do you say, lower these kinds of barriers is actually teacher scaffolding and introducing the platform at the very beginning. Because I can't take the students into Frame VR without having a structured lesson plan and also introducing them to the platform beforehand. When I also did the study, I introduced the chatbot to the students, and they kind of played with it and they experimented with it, and it was easy for them afterwards. And actually, they were level B, so they had also barriers in terms of like linguistic barriers and also technical barriers. And so we need to be patient. And also we need to understand, like, okay, is this good for the students? Why I'm introducing virtual reality? Is it going to take more time from the class than the meeting the learning objectives? And so one of the things that I use is the ADDIE model and the backward design models,
Yes.
especially the backward design model, because I always, so you will ask questions and about the interactions, and also well, that would relate to the learning outcomes, and at the same time the student proficiency level. So the students that I took to the Frame VR, they also had linguistic barriers, and they actually struggled at the very beginning when I taught them Zoom. Okay, and then when I because I used to give the class through Zoom, and but I showed them the Frame VR, and I told them, I give them an example. Some students are very curious, and so they would encourage others to go to the platform. And so you can use this, like sometimes instead of me using my skills, I use my student skills. I put them together in a way that doesn't, because I usually teach different cultures. And so I put them together. I try to make the classroom safe we try our best. And then they sometimes can lead each other, and sometimes they can tell each other what to do. I also gave in India, I was in India, and I gave one lecture on spatial, and many of them were not tech savvy at all. And one of the professors, she brought her child into that lecture, and I was telling them, press this key in order to jump. The student, the child started to jump in spatial. And all professors, they were like coming in and they're trying to explore, because sometimes what makes us not use technology or not use it proficiently is fear. Unlike kids, they like to explore. And so, hey, just explore. This is virtual reality. You can destroy stuff, whatever. It's just VR. And so we want to break the anxiety and fear barrier before breaking the technology barrier. And so, hey, just experiment with that. Just do this and do that and see what's going to happen. And and I think this would lower the tech barrier or the linguistic barrier. We need to experiment with things. I mean,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Amany. That's a fantastic answer. I would love to be able to chat with you. I have so many things I want to talk about.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah, it is so good to see you and so great to hear about all these amazing things. Are you are you what are your plans next with your research and your work? I guess as a closer.
I'm working on something, but I don't wanna, because I mean it's a race now. Like I
Oh,
know that that someone out there is thinking of the same thing,
yeah.
but I'm really looking for grant funding. If if I
Okay.
learn can provide like links or
Right.
something. Yeah.
Well, I mean, as a growing network that's looking to serve humanity and our world
Mm-mm.
in our mission statement now, and using immersive learning professionals, we would love to collaborate with you and help to solve some of those problems and help to create that better future together. And you
Yeah, sure.
really one of the luminaries out there helping us
Thank you.
shine the light on the future. So yeah, this has been fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah. Um, I guess that wraps it up. I thank you so again for coming on, and thank you everyone for joining us on our webinar. We'll have a number of others coming up soon following the holidays. I think this is our last one until next year. But watch our social media streams, and also don't forget to subscribe to our iLearn YouTube channel. This great talk will be up on the channel and posted soon. And once again, thank you for contributing to the Immersive Learning Research Network, everyone. Let's solve the world's issues and have a good time and play together. All right, take care. Thanks,
Yeah,
Amany.
bye. Thank you. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.